So, welcome to another episode of Tidbits with Tracy. I am inevitably slightly biased with today's guest being probably my all-time favorite guest that we've ever had and I ever will have. But we are so excited to have my papa, Mike Davis, who is chairman of Infax now, former president and CEO of Infax, and has been there since day one. So, Daddy, thank you so much for joining and sharing your experience with us. We are so excited to have you here.
We'll try to get all this done in about 2 minutes so we can go with other fun stuff this afternoon.
Get out of here. Well, I think, everybody knows you. Your legacy precedes yourself, and it's a good legacy. So,
Yeah.
so I think it would be good though if you could just tell us a little bit about your story. Start from the beginning. How did Grandpa first start Infax and where were you? Tell us the very, very beginning.
Well, probably the best way to do it is listen to him tell it, which we have some really wonderful videos on YouTube with him telling the story. So um, I
We'll
will
share
only
those
tell
as
it from
well.
my point of view. He was the one working. It was 1970, so I was 13, 14, maybe 13. I can't remember. I have to do the math. I don't have a calculator on my phone, but Um, no, I think it was a combination of things. He he had been in the military in the Navy and met your grandmother, my mother, when she was working for the FBI and he was working for NSA. And she transferred over to NSA and they became an item and ultimately got married. And he got a job opportunity in California. So he went to work for the famous Howard Hughes of Hughes Aircraft and was working in the infancy of electronics there. And that's where I was born, in a suburb of LA called Inglewood, which is where I think a big stadium and all sorts of stuff is now.
Yep.
Um, Went from Hughes to NCR in Dayton to Magnavox, which was a consumer and electronics and commercial government company, and then got an opportunity in the infancy of the NASA program to go work for a contractor in Florida. So we went from the snow-filled central Illinois area down to sunny beaches of Florida on Merritt Island.
Different.
And then NASA started winding down after Apollo. You guys have seen all the various stories of Apollo and the shuttle between the gap. And he got a job opportunity in Atlanta, so we moved here, or moved there. I don't live there anymore. Um, and then at that point, he was asked by a gentleman who worked for Delta Airlines to help develop one of the first information display systems to put characters on a CRT screen. Because in the old days, they took a camera and they shined it to a blackboard, and people wrote around. This wasn't even the whiteboards with the magic markers. This was the chalk stuff like the old days. And so he was instrumental in doing that. Delta helped fund him. They were the first customer of, at that time, called D Squared Products, which was, his name was Dave Davis. I still always kidded him. He named it for that, but he said it was Digital Devices. Yeah, I'll leave it to him, God rest his soul, that I'm not calling him a liar. And then one of his close friends and he came up with the name Infax for the product, for information fax or fast fax or something. I think it's in the video if you'll ever watch that. Um, where I came in is he closed up the garage and started it. Literally built a little office in there. Had a couple of employees who came in, had workbenches. Put a window air conditioner unit in the garage to keep it cool because there was no air conditioning in the garage and it was hot for some
Atlanta.
reason. And he had me starting to put together circuit boards, soldering circuit boards. That's where I learned I was colorblind because um, he came and said, "You're not putting the resistors right on these boards." And I said, "What?" And he said, "It's bad boys blank our young girls and violet gives willingly." And that's the color code. And I realized that I couldn't see brown, green, and red. They all look the same. So how does somebody know they're deaf when they can't hear? How does somebody know they're colorblind if they can't see the colors? So I stopped putting circuit boards together with resistors at that point and just learned how to wire wires and that stuff.
Oh my goodness.
But anyway, he grew the business from there, got more customers, more airlines at that point, and I worked for him after school and in the summer. And our good friend Bob Moody, who is still at Infax, vice president, did similar. And Bob's mother always asked him if he was going to work for Mr. Davis his whole life, and he's now 65 and still working with us, not for us, but so Yeah. Um, so we worked there through college. The transition from the company from what's called TTL logic, transistor logic, to microprocessors was in the late 70s, early 80s when Intel first came out with microprocessors. And what you needed then was programmers, which is what Bobby and I were studying in college. We were in the infancies of, they didn't call it computer science, they called it information systems.
Mm-hmm.
And we were both studying that along with business classes, and wrote code for him in the evenings and on the weekends and wherever with the old teletype. This was before even CRTs. You had a teletype, if you've seen those in the old machines that spit out the paper. And just worked with them on developing. We didn't develop it. We were just one of the coders and the people that wrote the code at that point. And then it just continued on. And then as we grew larger, he needed more uh, basically software engineering and sales. And so I liked the idea of doing that rather than sitting writing code all the time. And so Bob stayed writing fantastic code, and I went out and tried to sell it. And I guess the rest is history. We transitioned from manufacturing. We built all the computer boards. That was before microprocessor computers, before home computers, and Commodore 64s and IBM PCs and all of those things. So we had manufactured plants. We built monitors before all the big monitor companies were around. And then as those companies came, it became clearly apparent to him and to all of us that we better integrate rather than build, unfortunately. And so we phased out manufacturing over a period of time and became what we are generally what we are today, which is software engineering projects and tailoring our products to what the customers need.
That's incredible. And I love the story. And it's just the true entrepreneurial American dream story, starting a business in your garage and then seeing it grow on for three generations. So it's pretty incredible. Did you always know that you were going to join the company? I mean, what was your experience like working for your dad?
I was never going to join this company. My plan was to go do something else, but in the late 70s and early 80s, he had some health issues, some pretty serious ones. And as a small entrepreneur and company, there wasn't a lot of fallback, and so he had a heart attack and needed people there. So I became a 25-year-old executive, not wanting to do that, but and that's how I kind of got into it. They needed someone to run it. They needed someone to help understand the financial statements and talk to banks and all the other things. And I wasn't looking like I was going to have a heart attack, so they really liked me. So I ended up. They knew
Well,
that
what was
there was continuing. They weren't the lenders and the employees. Oh, this is going to be okay. He should be here for a while. So that's what happened.
So what was that transition like for you at 25? I mean, inevitably, I'm sure, had some of his longtime buddies working with the business. Were you
Yeah, he
accepted,
did.
encouraged, or what was that like?
Well, I mean, some of them were encouraged, some were not. I mean, there were some that ended up leaving. Some that Dan McWilliams, our current CFO, was at that point. I believe Dan was our independent auditor with the company, and so he was instrumental in helping me deal with some of the more challenging things that had to happen. And so, as nobody stays forever, hardly. I mean, we all go, we all quit, we all die, we all do things. So, but overall, the people that we wanted to stay, we were able to keep. We lost a lot of manufacturing people because we didn't have manufacturing, and that was very sad for all of us. But the transition of the business, if you don't change, as you're learning independent as an entrepreneur, you have to adjust. And if you don't, and you wait too long, you're going to have some serious issues. And so I'm not saying you have to be happy about it or whatever, but life's full of hard decisions, and we had to make those just like any other business.
Absolutely. So, you've seen Infax through decades of success. And so, I mean, congratulations, and I'm so proud of you and the family. But what are your most memorable moments growing Infax?
Oh, I mean, there's so
You
many.
have a
We
long
won some really cool projects.
list.
Working with the airlines, of course, it's different now.
Yeah.
We don't have many, if we have any airline customers. Most of ours has transitioned to government agencies, airports, bus and rail, courts, and all of that. But the airlines were great. I mean, they were fun. It was a growth time in the airlines. There was deregulation. Of course, there was a lot of eventually bankruptcies in those because of either the way they were structured, under capitalization, competition, all the other stuff. You probably read about it, and virtually every one of those airlines were our customers and filed bankruptcy on us. So I learned a lot about bankruptcy law, unfortunately, especially when you're an unsecured because you don't get your money. But we made it through that too. It was challenging at times, but we figured out how to limp through and move on. But doing business with the airlines at those times, and there were some great airlines. You know, we had the Trans World Airlines and Pan Am, and of course Delta, which was a key airline, Continental, which is now
Mm.
United. You know, all of those, many of those were our customers, and it was just a great camaraderie. A lot of really neat people. A lot of the airlines were very much like family businesses until they got so big they couldn't be a family business anymore. So,
Yeah.
but
It's a
that was
different
really fun.
time. That was your most memorable. I think when I started, we were already working directly with airports. So I never got to experience that. We would periodically work with the airlines, but it wasn't to the extent that, you had that experience. And I think airlines in general have just changed. Like you said, it's no longer that tight knit feeling. It's definitely large corporations. So,
Yeah, they were, there was a lot of airlines and they were a lot smaller at that time. I
mhm,
mean, they were still big companies, but they weren't like the behemoths of today when you
yeah.
have four major companies in the United States controlling most of the traffic in airports these days.
Yeah, very different ball game. So you've seen obviously with small business, there's ups and downs, there's amazing times and challenges. What are some of the challenges that you've experienced and how did you personally overcome them?
Well, there's multiple. I
Mm.
mean, you've got the business challenges of financing the business, which are, a combination.
Mm-hmm.
You have your accounts receivable, your collections.
Yep.
Nobody likes to make a collections call, but when you know, I
Mm-hmm.
had to make those because sometimes they were really big. Sometimes they were to airlines.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they were to lawyers because they had filed bankruptcy. We were trying to figure out. Some were to construction companies that were building an airport or a bus station who decided they didn't want to pay you because they wouldn't be working with you ever again because they were going to go build one bus station. So those are tough. We got up to above 100 employees at several points in our business, which is not a lot to most companies, but it was a lot to us when you'd gone from 20 to 100,
Yeah.
4 to 5 times high. So that represented more things with HR and the challenges. And of course, the HR today is so much different than it used to be, but it still was challenging. And we implemented a retirement program in '85, which had never been done in a small company our size before. I mean, that we knew about. So there was a lot of things like that. So, the beauty of a small entrepreneurial company is that you get to do a lot of different things.